shake your booties for black girl nerds.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. I enjoyed all of your performances.
Thank you very much.
Elena, beginning with you, we often see next generation people who have parents, whether it's sports or film, they kind of struggle against that legacy, the shadow that the first generation cast for them. Why do you think Chloe struggles so hard against the legacy that has been laid out for her?
That's such a beautiful question, Jeandra. I'm going to try and do it justice with a good answer. So I feel like Jupiter's Legacy, a lot of times, like the big theme of it is like, okay, the kids living up to the expectations of their parents. But a big part of it, I feel, is the parents also living up to the expectations the kids have. Because I think when we're growing up as children, whoever our parental figure is in our life, if we have one, if we're lucky enough to have one, we have a hope or a dream that they are going to be perfect in a sense, like they're never going to let us down, which is impossible because we're all human, we're all flawed. So I think not only in Chloe trying to live up to the expectation of her father, she has an expectation of him for her to be a dad to her, and he's perfect to everybody in the world except her. He's too caught up in playing a symbol, in playing this facade of perfection, and she's not about that. She doesn't want to be a poser along with them and put on this veil of like invincibility, because she is so clearly invincible, and especially in what she goes through. We are all invincible. So she's just so human, and I think it's because her father is just too caught up in not getting in touch with his human side, and she's just like, be real with me, like be my dad. And so that's why she just can't handle it, and rightly so. And she ends up going into drugs and alcohol and all this stuff as a means to try and stifle and numb the pain that she's feeling, and also the self-loathing, because she's in a dark place. But it only really it only heightens everything for her, unfortunately. I hope that answers it.
For sure. So, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have Andrew, your character Brandon. He wants the ability, he wants the action, but maybe not have as much ability. Is that a harder cross to bear, to see someone who has it and doesn't want it and not have the full capability, or so we may see during this course of the season?
Yeah, I think there's a particularly striking line within episode 1 where Brandon and Chloe are having a little exchange outside after a family dinner sequence, and Brandon says, in the midst of a discussion / argument that we're having, he says, "You're just jealous because he picked me instead of you." And Chloe says, I'm not jealous because you have to deal with X, Y, Z, all of these expectations, everything that has come before you. You have to now try and take that on, and you're not doing it. And I think having the knowledge that he is not living up to his father's expectation is crippling for Brandon. And it gives us this really interesting relationship between Brandon and his father, but with his mother and his sister as well. And they spread wider into the universe of the show as well.
Mm-hmm. And Ian, lastly for you, with Hutch, he may not have these super abilities per se, but he knows how to wield them and create his own destiny in a sense. Where does that put him kind of on the spectrum of good or bad? Is it that simple for him?
No, I don't think it is at all. And I think that's partly why he's able to function so well in this world, where people in a world of superheroes, supervillains, good guys, bad guys, and this code that kind of puts blinders on you. Hutch lives in that blind spot, and so people don't see him coming. And so when he comes to correct, when he comes to challenge, when he comes to rectify, people are blindsided.
Mm-hmm. All of you perform so well. There's so much action. It was riveting, and it really shined a light that maybe the origin story is not so perfect. It's not so beautiful of how people get there, because often with superheroes, it always assumes that the root is noble. Elena, lastly for you, is the intent really noble? The beginning, the roots of how they're going to be?
That's I'm loving these questions today. I feel like everyone's intentions are good to the start. And I feel like the reason why I say this is because in all of our narratives, no matter who you are on the planet, I feel like we all are the heroes of our own narrative. We always, and that's what's so interesting about dissecting characters when you play them, is like, okay, why did you know, our characters do things that I don't agree with everything Chloe does, but I sympathize with her, and I hope that the audiences will, and that's what I, you know, pursue to do. But it's figuring out, okay, what makes them, what are the motivations? What makes them justify these things? What justifies her punching somebody through a wall? You know, she is being used to get to her father, and this is what fuels her trust issues, because everybody's always no one actually, until she meets Hutch, is really trying to connect with her as a person on a real level. So, you know, that's fueling that kind of an action. It's not to agree with the actions, but it's to understand what brings them there. So I do think there's noble intent at the start, but certainly the lines get blurred. That's why the show is not black and white. It's the gray matter in between, like how power corrupts, you know, how things get distorted, and how something that can start out with noble intent can unravel and become a box meant to, like, in Chloe's case, stifle her and define her, which she doesn't want to be put in a box or told what to do with her life by the very rules invented by her own papa. It's, you know, I don't know if that answers it, but
it's crazy. I mean, I think we've all gone through when you grow with your parents. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
everyone,
Thank you very much,
for your
Jeandra.
time. I appreciate it, and I enjoyed all of you. Thank you.
thank
Great.
you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.